Greetings, everybody out there, Pathfinder, Magic fans, etc., etc. Welcome to another one of my little weekly streams here. Got a schedule right up here. Got some fun slides here to show you, and uh, let's get on with it. First, a little bit of news. Just one item for Magic. We got our first look at Magic the Gathering Forgotten Realms. Which, hey, I'm actually super excited about that. I know it's a little controversial that Magic is using all these other IPs, but oops, got a little problem here. There we go. Frankly, I'm really excited just to see anything that gets more people involved in different hobbies and excited about different ways to play their favorite games. Sorry, I'm screwing up here a little in OBS. This is my first time, again, I'm doing this a lot to test out OBS and streaming in general and getting used to talking on camera, so there will be little problems like this. There we have it. All right. That was not the right one yet. That's weird. And of course, these are all out of order. All right, so one cool thing we got going here is we do have these amazing classic rulebook alternate arts coming out for the Magic the Gathering set. So we know the beholder's in the set. We just don't know what it does yet. They just showed us this artwork. This is new artwork. It's just done in the style of the older texts. It's actually by the same artist who did Justine Jones, who did the 5-color legendary Secret Lair a couple years ago. I think these cards are super cool. Love seeing a lot of extra monsters. Hope we get some stuff that didn't even make it into 4th and 5th edition, like the Piercer, and of course, hopefully we'll see Gelatinous Cube. I mean, there's so many different monsters they could pull from here. More important for us, though, man, I wish I get this slideshow working. All right, that's fine. Loop, automatic, bound ratio. All right. So more important for us, though, convention season is upon us here with Pathfinder. So Organized Play Con starts today. So if you head on to their Discord, Google Organized Play Con right here. There's many author tables, including myself. We still have lots of openings for them. There is a small donation to charity to Jasper's Game Day Fund. But you'll be able to play with us and ask us about our experiences writing these scenarios or how you could become an author for Pathfinder, a freelance author. The organized PlayCon looks really cool. There's a lot of really nice raffles going on. Really fun. There'll be games all weekend. And then, of course, in a few more weeks, we have PaizoCon starting May 28th. Player registration for that ends May 21st, so go ahead and get on that if you will. I have an author table at that as well, but I hate to say it's already full. Concurrent is June 11th. I still have room for that if you want to play Crashing Waves. Other news, Paizo subscribers have had their April releases pushed back to May, in case you haven't heard that, in case you haven't seen it in your email. And more exciting than that, Monsters of Myth was announced as another Pathfinder's Lost Omen. Lost Omen's Legends, if you haven't picked it up, go pick it up, go check it out, go read a copy, do whatever you can, because that book is amazing. So much lore, so much inspiration, so much great stuff about the setting. This is a lot like Lost Omen's Legends, except monsters instead of humanoid legends. So stuff like the Sandpoint Devil and all the different baddies spawned by Rovagug, all those kind of really cool monsters will be in there, I'm sure. I'm not sure. I haven't worked on this. I don't know anything else about this other than what's on the little blurb on the website. But I do know that it's coming out in November. So that September, August, October, November, there's going to be, I think, 9 hardcovers, maybe 12 if you include Starfinder. That's a lot of books, but it should be a lot of fun, and this one looks like an absolute winner. In addition, Wrath of the Righteous, we learned, is coming out September 2nd on Steam, and the company has made some hints that they have some tentative maybe plans for a console release as well. Also, they released the Kitsune artwork from Wrath of the Righteous, which was one of the winners from their Ancestry survey. I believe it was done on Twitter. Gorgeous artwork, absolutely love it. But I'm a sucker for knife throwers. I'm a sucker for Kitsune, but I'm also a sucker for knife throwers. Don't have much more to say on this, though. Cool artwork. Game looks absolutely great. If you liked Kingmaker, check out Wrath of the Righteous by Allcat Games. But on to the main thing. I'm mostly here today to talk about Lost Omen's Ancestry Guide, specifically the treatment for the Kitsune in Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. Thank you, Param. Yes. Yeah. So, before we begin, I do want to note that many of the myths that I'm going to be referencing that I see as analogous to the myths in this book may or may not have influenced the author. I don't know. They certainly have influenced the Kitsune in popular culture and whatnot to the extent that I could talk about these older myths. Most of them I got from this book right here. Kitsune, Japan's Foxes of Mystery, Romance, and Humor, printed in 1961, I believe, by Kazoshi Nozaki. If you could find a copy of this book, get it. The cheapest I could find is $600. It's been out of print for a while, but it has a lot of the author did a lot of great research into stories. Some of them go back, thousands of years. Others are just like 1940, 1930, 1912, urban myths at the time that help bring to light this great mythological creature we're going to be talking ancestry we're going to be talking about today. All right, so we're going to start things off. First, actually, I want to talk about the different heritages of the Kitsune, because that really helps give you this feeling of why I love the ancestry so much, because it makes such great for whether a hero, a villain, or just something in between. It's an absolutely fabulous ancestry, and I hope you like as much as I do toward the end of this. All right, so first we're going to talk about the celestial envoy. They're kind of based on the myth of the Myobu Kitsune. They are... the Myobu is technically the name. It means fifth lady. It refers to a title within the courts, I believe the Heian period, 8th century Japan. But there was a shrine to that individual, to those courtiers, on Fushimi Inari Taisha, which is the shrine in Kyoto, where there's kitsune statues everywhere. It's dedicated to Inari, who is kind of analogous to Daikitsu in Golarion, who is the progenitor goddess of the kitsune. So the Myobu are considered like the heralds of Inari. In this case, the celestial envoys, I suppose, would be kind of the heralds of Daikitsu. They get some bonuses against saving throws against divine spells, and since they're, have kind of her divine protection. They're commonly depicted white-furred with hikimayu, which are the little dots over the eyes. Much like the Myobu of the Heian period, they would shave their eyes and paint eyebrows over their heads. Kind of like the thing we have here on the very first page of the Kitsune. There is another, I believe it would be a Myobu if I was to choose a heritage for them. Right here on a couple pages later, I zoomed in here so you could see she has some inarizushi, which is fried tofu pockets filled with rice that are commonly gifted to Myobu at these shrines. I guess it would be a Myobu because there's the rice. Kind of odd that we see a Myobu there in fox form when the Myobu only have a human and another form, so maybe it's an Earthly Fields Kitsune, and maybe they like fried tofu just as much. It is said that Kitsune love fried tofu, so yeah, why not? But on the other end of the spectrum, we have the Dark Fields Kitsune. They feed off fear. They're said to eat livers, which in real world, there's this idea that the liver is kind of a repository of extra ki in case you get injured or whatever. And demons and kitsune and other spiritual creatures will eat it first because it has the highest concentration of spiritual power. In Lost Omens, this is kind of cool. They say that, no, they believe kind of that too, but that's a myth. And within Lost Omens, it's a myth. The truth is they would eat livers because they were a cheap source of protein. they would eat all the parts of the animal because the Darkfield Kitsune didn't have as many resources as the Myobu. But they still do feed off fear within Pathfinder, which is really cool. They could get temporary hit points if someone's feared around them, which is really, that's what's nice about it is you only need one person in the party to use battle cry or intimidate or what have you, and all the Darkfield Kitsune in your party could go ahead and benefit from that. Really nice with Battlecry, since it's a reaction, and Battlecry happens when you roll initiative, so it won't use up your reaction for your first round, I don't think. Ask your GM. That's kind of one of those niche little Ask Your GM things, but kind of cool to have a reaction you could use during initiative. Incidentally, I do have this really kind of cool picture I found very recently of a no Kitsune, which are kind of Oni-possessed Kitsune, which are a completely separate creature in Pathfinder, but no Kitsune eating a liver, which I could see why Darkfield Kitsune and no Kitsune probably considered analogous to people ignorant in Kitsune lore. Within the Lost Omen setting, I that's kind of the impression I get from the Dark Fields. There's not too much written about each of these heritages in terms of lore, especially the Dark Fields, but you could kind of use the Kitsune myth, use what you learn in the real world about the Kitsune myth, and kind of blend it in with Lost Omens, and you're probably close to the truth, or at least close to what people would consider the truth within the setting. Always, always, doesn't matter if it's Kitsune, manticores, elves, whatever. Look up, learn about the creature you're learn about what inspired the creature within the setting, and you will always find that you'll have a deeper, richer understanding for what was trying to be conveyed within the Pathfinder setting. I find that when it comes to writing or playing any ancestry or heritage within the Pathfinder setting. Next, we do have the Earthly Wilds Kitsune. Personally, I think of these as the default kind of neutral Kitsune. They can turn to foxes. They have a bite attack. But slightly less magical, if you want to call them that. Slightly less alignment or elemental based. Kind of the middle ground Kitsune. They'd be more like the ones in Myth that just go around tricking people. They aren't associated necessarily with Inari, but they're also not associated with eating livers. They just want to play tricks on people and run away. Eat your chickens. They're tricky foxes. This one's also really good if you want to play kind of a fox person who's more inspired by like the Native American myths or the Russian myths or the Korean myths that don't fit those other heritages as well. All right. And after after Earthly Wilds, there is also the Empty Sky Kitsune. This here picture was taken from Faiths of Golarion, a first edition book that discusses a lot of the non-core deities, such as, in this case, Heifeng. Heifeng has a herald, I believe you call them, called Lixia. She's a nine-tailed fox there who appears to trick people with lightning strikes, and they appear. What's neat is, so when I first got this, I'm going to take a little detour right now to feats. One thing that struck me just a couple days ago, actually, is I had a friend, Alex Agunas, was talking to me about Foxfire and how he was asking me, should I choose fire or should I choose lightning? Okay, so Kitsune are commonly associated with Foxfire, little motes of fire that float around them, or they could use to cast their magic or whatever. And kind of like Will-O-Wisp in Irish lore, but English lore. But in Pathfinder 2nd edition, the Foxfire can manifest doing either lightning or fire damage, which kind of struck us both as odd, and I had to look deep. I did find one myth, though, where a Kitsune did in fact use electricity. It was in a city called Suma, which is in the Miyagi Prefecture. During July, a guy witnessed this kind of local drunk, talking to himself, and he went a little closer and found he was talking to a fox, and he realized this drunken guy was completely stupid, probably enchanted by the fox. But when he saw the fox, he felt this jolt of electricity that completely stunned him. By the time he got it, he was able to get break free of it and throw the rock. Now, this might just be an enchantment effect, but like I said, it's the only traditional Kitsune myth I could find associated with lightning. There might be stuff in Korean myth or Chinese myth that didn't carry over to Japan. If there is, I'd love to hear about it. It could also just be a reference here to Lynxia, the herald of the god of lightning from first edition there. This would give the Kitsune the opportunity to kind of be a follower or be otherwise influenced here by Lynxia and Heng Fei. Could just be that. Could just be that this kind of weird bluish green lightning or bluish green light, known as Foxfire, has never really been completely figured out. Some people have said it could be ball lightning or lightning itself. Some people say it's probably just fungus, bioluminescent fungus, swamp gas igniting. There's a lot of different speculation as to what Foxfire actually is. I'll get more back to Foxfire a little later, especially when we get here to the next heritage. The Frozen Wind Kitsune. Now, this is actually an adlet from Bestiary 3. The adlets, this is cool, new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, are said to possibly share a heritage with the Kitsune. Like, this couple came together and one of their children was an adlet and one was a Kitsune. It's kind of neat. The Frozen Wind Kitsune are from the Crown of the World. They could control ice to some extent. Like their Foxfire could actually do ice damage, frozen damage, which is pretty cool. They also there's a later feat you could get where you turn into a big burning fox, but if you're a Frozen Winds, you could turn into an ice fox instead. Pretty neat. Again, not much myth in Japanese lore about frozen foxes. Only thing I could find was there's a 13th century myth, 13th, maybe 12th, about a general who, man, what was that? The Uji Shui Monogatari. It's a big series of stories, and one of the stories is about this general who had a retainer who was all like, who was really hungry for a specific type of food. So he employed Kitsune to come together and give him more than he could possibly eat, and that he didn't want to eat it. And anyway, but there was a point in the story where a frozen wind went through the mansion. So, I mean, the fact that Kitsune deal with illusions and enchantment and kind of mind control like that makes it hard to pinpoint an element on them. There are myths where they turn into the moon. There are myths where they breathe fire. There are myths. I mean, there's a lot of the myths vary. There's no canon when it comes to these folklores, especially with a lesser dogmatic religion, as in religion like Shinto. There's a lot less dogma. There is the one big written myth, but it's not as codified as the West. There's a lot less as some certain Western mythologies. So there's a lot less. Depending on what century you're getting your stories from and what region you're getting your stories from, there'll be major differences when it comes to your mythology, which is great. I think that's awesome for picking and choosing what you want to be inspired by if you're looking to be directly inspired. Nothing wrong, of course, with just, I like the name, I like parts of the myth, but let's just say all those things are myths, kind of like what they did here in Ancestry Guide with the Dark Fields. Let's just say liver eating is a myth within the game, but they don't actually hunt down humans for their livers. I kind of like that too. All right. So feats. Kitsune spell familiarity. Hey, you get some. So back in first edition, there were these magical tail feats. Each one gave you a spell-like ability you could use once a day. And the more each tail level up gave you an additional spell-like ability. In this system, you could grow multiple tails by simply gaining levels. Every time you get Ancestry feat or every time you go up a spell level, you could add an additional tail. When you go up a level, you get to choose, do I want an extra tail or not, which, amazing. Absolutely love this. There is no reason your Kitsune should have to be a spellcaster, despite some mythological connotation to that, or has to burn up all their feats just to get multiple tails, because it's a great storytelling element. My own Kitsune in Starfinder, while he took magical tail like twice before he even grew his second tail, we just decided, like, hey, when my character hits a point where, like, they've developed enough as a character or had this revelation or whatever, go ahead and tell me when I grow my tail, Mr. GM. And my GM had a great time, kind of, I don't know how much he planned it out, but a great time having my character just suddenly pop this tail when certain events transpired and when they clearly had some growth in their development there with some of their problems. I don't suggest just getting your tails as fast as possible. Is what I guess I'm trying to get at. Think of some goals, some connotations. And in my GM's case, he's doing it with chakras. So kind of each time I my character actually, I guess, accomplishes something within relation and order to becoming pseudo enlightened, they will grow a tail. I don't know, and I don't want to know until it happens because that's part of the surprise. All right. So these spells in this game, each of these feats gives you 3 innate spells you could use once per day. What's nice is they're kind of themed. It feels like one is Miyobu, one is no Kitsune, one is earthly normal fox. In that, well, one is kind of tricky. One is kind of protective, and the other is more neutral fox. For example, the initial feat, Kitsune Spell Familiarity, grants you Ghost Sound, kind of tricky to trick people around. Daze, kind of that initial myth I told you about the guy getting dazed. Or Forbidding Ward, kind of a great way to kind of protect people. As the Kitsune are seen as kind of protective ambassadors of Inari, the Miyobu. You would offer your tofu into these little holes that actual foxes could reach if they want to, near these statues, and it was kind of a way to pray for protection. Ghost Sound. There's where was that? Uzumu province in the 20s. There was a famous story about a hunter who set out some traps. And the next day, everyone in the village heard this woman crying out, "Help, help, 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 Toskate." And they were all kind of horrified by the noise, weren't even 100% sure where it was coming from. And when they finally went to the traps, they found a fox trapped in the trap. And the fox apparently got away before they could finish it off. But it was the fox yelling out help. And they're like, "Ooh, this is weird." So, yeah, Ghost Sound. Ghost Sound would also be helpful if you are a fox, depending on whether or not you could cast it in fox form. Still constant debate about that. Foxfire, again, you could use it. Foxfire counts as an armed attack, so monks, go ahead and flurry with it. In fact, if you get Stunning Fist, and the 2 best combos with it, you could use Stunning Fist, and you could stun people from range. Pretty cool. And you could use... I'm so sorry, my brain just got down. There's also a 8th or 10th level monk feat that lets you push people you hit with your arm strike, which should work with this. Which being able to push people from a range shove people at a range is fantastic. If they're up on a tree branch or up on a bridge, and they're expecting you to be able to just push them over the edge down to where everyone else is, absolutely great. Foxfire, it does fire damage or electricity. You pick when you pick the feat. It could do ice if you are a Frozen Wind Kitsune. It is from the sling weapon group, so there's a chance to stun once you get your critical weapon specialization on it, and you could improve it with hand wraps of mighty blows. So you could add additional dice to your damage there. Kitsune lore, it gives you extra skills, diplomacy, deception, and the Kitsune lore skill. I think it's kind of a reference to... a lot of the races have these kind of feats. Might be a slight reference to Pathfinder First Edition, where they had a alternate racial trait where they got bonus skill feats that was extremely popular. Retractable claws. If you want a natural attack, but you don't want to be a Earthly Winds Kitsune or take a level in Witch for a fluffy tail, you can make claws. And Shapeshifter's Intuition lets you see through disguises more easily. The most common reoccurring theme in Kitsune myth is their ability to disguise themselves as humans, which... yeah, being able to see through that disguise is kind of critical to not being tricked or attacked or, in some cases, helped by the fox. And then for the first level feat is a Star Orb, based on the one of my favorite elements of the Kitsune from First Edition, the Kitsune Star Gem. So a lot of these fox statues in Japan will have something in their mouth, or something they're standing on, usually in their mouth. One of the most common elements is a star orb. Their star gem, Hoshitama, star ball, and these little balls are said to contain an essence of the fox's power. Either they sealed some of it away so they could be a physical fox on this plane of existence, or they just use it because they have extra power and they want to store it for later, or they need it as a focus, kind of like a focus, like a cleric. And then the myth goes, if you could steal the fox's Hoshitama, their star ball, you could ask for it to do something for you, like a wish. Cool. So the star orb in this system, in first edition, star orbs were individual items. You could just load up on them, and they let you regenerate your spell-like abilities. They were intended for use with your magical tales, but they were vague, so you could use them with like everything. You could use them with cleric domains, possibly item mastery feats. There were a lot of different uses for them in first edition. Second edition, they're a familiar, which is awesome. Light bulk, tiny stone familiar. They can't move, they can't talk unless you give them the powers to. They do come with the innate surge master ability, which lets you renew a use of an ancestry spell. So you could use them with the other Kitsune spells. The other cool thing that they have, really cool reference to a myth there, is at 13th level you could upgrade your star orb to a killing stone. This lets you cast Cloud Kill, kind of a miasma. What's really nice, cool here is, okay, so the very famous Kitsune named Tamamo no Mai. She, by the way, I apologize about my pronunciation if I'm getting some of these wrong. I really do try, but I try. It's my weakness. But so Tamamo no Mai was said to she was the emperor's, I believe, consort, and she was accused of draining his essence. And in some versions of the myth, she was, I've heard, but in others, she was genuinely in love with him. And then in some cases, she was actually in love with him, but also killing him. In other cases, she didn't want to, and it just happened because of what she was. And in other cases, she wasn't at all, and this was just a giant cover-up. But she was being hunted down after she was found to be a Kitsune. She was either hit by an arrow, or she did this to avoid getting hit by an arrow, but she turned into a big stone called the Seki Seki, the Killing Stone. And it was said that the stone would emit a miasma, kind of a deadly fog that would kill anyone near it. So in some cases in the myth, it was if you touch it, it will drain the life from you. There's something about a monk who meditated near it, communed with her maybe, and asked her to go away, or sealed it away, so it wasn't dangerous anymore. But that's where this myth is coming from, kind of this idea that you could have this star gem that could emit this deadly miasma. Really glad that got a shout out in the form of this feat. You have a hybrid form, very cool. It lets you could just be a human with fox ears and a fox tail, or or you could have your claws despite being in human form, your teeth despite being in human form. Really glad that's a feat. Really glad that's a thing. I think I'd actually prefer it even if you could do it without the feat, but hey, I can't have everything. Kitsune Spell Mysteries improves your innate magic. You get Bane, Illusory Object, or Sanctuary. Of course, Kitsune and illusions is great that we have these illusions being given to them as ancestry feats, so you don't have to play an illusionist if you want to do foxy illusion stuff. Myriad Forms lets you gain an additional form. This, I suppose, is how that Myobu Kitsune could turn into a fox. Shifting Faces is kind of the original. It lets you use illusory disguise, so you could transform into something more than just a human. You could be a Tengu. You could be a specific human, even third level. Yeah, you could even be a specific individual that you've seen before. Normally, Kitsune have their human form and their other form, half human, half fox. Or sorry, they have their natural form, they're half human, half fox, and then they either have their human form, which is you always look the same. I'm Dustin, and then now I'm Fox Dustin or whatever, and then they have their pure fox form. They usually don't. In Pathfinder, they usually can't look like anybody different than that without shifting faces. And then Fox Trick, kind of a more mundane, only in that it's not magic, a way to trick people. They are considered great tricksters. This lets them hide objects, create a diversion, or themselves hide as a free action once per hour. Absolutely, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. Rogues who don't want to go for the magic side of the Kitsune should definitely look into picking something like that up. And finally, Kitsune Spell Expertise, you get Confusion, Death Ward, or Illusory Scene. So the illusions thing, I like how they did these illusions. There's this kind of idea that illusions go from the inside out. Like a low-level illusionist could change themselves, and a higher-level illusionist could change objects. And the highest level of illusion is being able to change the world around you. It's kind of, some see it as kind of a projection of self to the outside, projection of what you want to see coming out because of your great power. Which illusory scene being the capstone illusion innate spell for Kitsune then fits very well. Death Ward, again, kind of the capstone for being a Mayobu Kitsune is these death effects will not hurt me because I have too much life and I could save others with this. Confusion, very great capstone for a no Kitsune. Lots of cases of Kitsune just by being in a place causes people to completely freak out and start attacking each other. There was a 1910, I believe it took place. There was a myth of a Kitsune who, or urban legend of a Kitsune who caused a husband to attack his wife. She survived, forgiveness and all that, but it was one great example of confusion taking over. Hope I'm not getting these myths wrong. Yeah, I double checked this. Yeah, okay, cool. And then the ultimate Kitsune feat, the capstone feat, was Fiery Body. You kind of become a pseudo-elemental, get resistance to precision damage, fire immunity. You do damage to anyone who touches you. But best of all, you get these big unarmed fire damage attacks that are much stronger than a normal star gem. And you get additional die of damage for your Foxfire, which should stack with hand wraps. I imagine it will. So, and produce flame as an innate spell, so you get to do 94 damage per flame, and you get to be a giant fiery fox. I mean, that's just cool. Or if you could also be a giant icy fox and get all that I just said, except replace the word fire with ice. So you get, produce ice instead of produce fire. So that's pretty cool. There's no electric fox body, which makes me a little disappointed because I could have just said or electric, but they would need, I guess it would be Sky who would get to choose that, but it's kind of weird that they said like anyone who chooses Foxfire could do electricity or fire. I don't know. I'd love to hear the design decision behind that. If anybody knows why, go ahead and tell me, but it wouldn't be that. I mean, if I was the GM and you said, I want to be an electric fox at level, what is this, 13, 16, 17, I'd totally be on board with that. 17. Yeah, if you go, I want to be electric fox at 17 because I have electric fox fire and I'm a Sky Kitsune, I'd be like, yeah, sure, that's great. Electricity's fine. Been doing a lot of research into the difference in element space, not on the player side of things, but the GM side of things. If you're wondering whether to choose electric or fire, fire does have a lot more resistances, but it also has a lot more weaknesses. So it's kind of a feast or famine thing. You want to do a lot of damage, but sometimes do less, pick fire. If you want to do more consistent damage, pick electricity. Fire, of course, you could also use to, burn people and stuff. Burn objects and stuff. Light torches and whatnot. So there's that flavorful element to it as well. And that pretty much covers what I got for now on the Kitsune. I'm running out of time. But I do have overview of all the different heritages and all the neat things they could do with Kitsune, because there's a lot of really cool combos that other ancestries don't get as much use out of, just in terms of flavor, or in terms of their ability to innate surge and regain their spells. I mean, any familiar can take innate surge, but Kitsune are special. They get it as a first level ancestry feat, so but I think I'll go over that next time. I'll show off some more, and by next time I mean in a few weeks, because next week, like I said, I'm opening some. Next week I'm opening my secret layers. I have some leftover secret layers here, and then the week after we're doing PaizoCon prep, which I might have some time then to discuss the heritages, but it'll probably be a couple weeks after that, because I'm not having a show on the 28th because of PaizoCon. So I suppose it would be the show after that on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. On the 4th, we'll go ahead and return to this and talk about more about the Kitsune heritages and ancestries. And yeah, we'll have a wonderful time. I'll show off some more Kitsune merchandise too, if we have some time. I still have plenty of Fox stuff. Some of it's even right here on camera that I'd love to show off and try to get more people invested in what is still, by far, I believe, probably my most favorite Ancestry. Until then, thank you very much. Oh, one more little shout out, as long as I'm on here and I have people watching. No Direction this week did a really great show. They discussed low campaigns or sessions with a low number of players, and the Paragon mode for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. They had on some guests to discuss it, and overall it was a really helpful show. Even if you don't have even if you don't want to run a campaign with only 1 or 2 players, you never know when a campaign will need a session with just 1 or 2 players. This had this show, How to Play with Small Game Groups, No Direction, episode 249, with designer Quinn Murphy and Tommy from Black Dragon Gaming showing off their Paragon mode of solo Pathfinder 2nd Edition play. And like I said, you never know when you'll need it. You'll never know when somebody doesn't show up for like 2 or 3 months to a session, but their character was in just this perfect place where you're like, I know why they didn't show up. Their character was doing this other thing, and we're going to roleplay it out over Discord in a 4 or 5 hour session. But I can't really give them challenging but balanced encounters if they're solo in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Oh, that's okay. We have Paragon mode. But I don't want to spoil too much. Like, watch the show. No Direction's wonderful. It's up on YouTube. You could also watch it on Twitch. It's great. So, until then, I do have a WoW raid that I'm running a little bit late to. So I better go ahead and get on that before my guildmaster comes in here and starts yelling at me. So thank you again for watching. Come back next week. I'll be opening up a bunch of secret layers as we look for misprinted cards. I hope this show was a little more organized, better than most. We'll see as I rewatch it with a little cringe on my face. So thank you all very much, and have yourself a wonderful weekend.